In today's video, I will be going over how to insert data into the TFC Excel program for CK Family Services. In this video, I have replaced all names with numbers for confidentiality. So let's get started. First thing you're going to do is when you open the file, you're going to click this zoom button. It makes it a little easier to view each sheet. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click this jump to different sheet. So for the sake of this video, we're going to say that we want to insert data for all of December's information. So I'm going to go to my groups tab first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the first empty space in column L of the list. And I'm going to insert any new kids that I have for this month, okay? So for this month, I only have one new kid, and I am looking at Facilitator Trish, and I'm going to insert that kid's information. So I know that I have child 100 is a new kid that I'm going to have this month. I'm going to insert their CKID number here, as well as their start date, referral date, and their first CFTM date that I recorded. If I forget, I can scroll to the top and look at the top row in the column headers. Say CKID number, start date, referral date, first CFTM date, okay? So that's all I'm going to input on this groups tab. Then I'm also going to scroll to the very left side of the sheet, and I'm going to notice that there are different sections for each month. I have the January, February, March, and then as you scroll down, it keeps on going, okay? At the top, you have these highlighted cells and they indicate what's being highlighted. So if something is highlighted in red, it means that the child has exited for that month. If it's in blue, it means that they're new. Yellow's transfer, orange transferred and exit, purple exit and new, and green returned. Okay? So I'm going to scroll down to the month that I'm looking at, which is December. And I'm going to look at my list. Okay, so for Trish, I'm the facilitator Trish. I noticed that I have 3 kids, but I also have a new kid, and that kid is not mentioned in this section. So I'm gonna type that kid's name. So I'm gonna say child 100. And I'm gonna insert that kid's information here. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to highlight the cell to indicate that this kid is new. So I'm going to color and I'm going to say blue. So we have all of the kids' information go. So now what I want to do is I have child 7, 16, 38, 100. Okay? And I'm going to go to my Facilitator Assignments tab. And I want to make sure that I have the same kids that were listed in that cell. So I am missing child 100, so I'm going to type in child 100. And then after I do that, I'm going to hit compile. Okay, are you sure you want to change the list? Yes. And notice how the information pulls up here. Okay, so I'm going to enter today's date just so I can know when's the last time I got on. So I'm going to say that today is the 31st of 2021. Okay. And now I have the information inserted and I want to start collecting the data. So I'm going to insert these four columns into my December tab. So I'm going to click December. Are you sure you want to add current list of following month? Yes. And then it takes me to that month. Now for this one, I've already inserted the information for those kids, so we don't have to do that. But what that did was it took that information and it inserted it into these 4 cells from the facilitator assignments. Briefly, I can go over each column. There's a few parameters that we haven't gone over yet. So what we're measuring is if the kid left the program, yes or no. If they left, when was the date that they left? Also the program outcome, if they left, was it successful or unsuccessful? And then give those reasons why. So for unsuccessful, we have hospital, if I say juvie or RTC. If a kid was successful, we would have other options. We also have indicate whether the kid changed home. So if they left the program, that's not going to be applicable, but they're still in it, tell me yes or no, and then the reason they changed homes. Also, tell me the first and second initial condition. They should be the same for each month, as well as their baselines. If they're a new kid and they just entered the program, you might not have this information. You don't know their behavioral patterns yet, so you can leave those blank. But then also insert the current, so the average that they have for that corresponding month. You want to see that these values are decreasing so that their behavior is improving and they're not acting out as much. Also, answer if a new behavior developed, yes or no. If yes, indicate which behavior that was. Also indicate where did the initial conditions mainly occur, home, school, or the community. And then if they had school issues, indicate those. So you either have none, ISS suspension, or expulsion. Again, if they're new to the program, it might be not applicable to insert that information. Psychiatric hospitalization needed, indicate yes or no. NA if they have had no issues that month, no behavioral issues or no new behaviors. And then also indicate that CFTM date, so that meeting date that you had for that corresponding month. Again, we want to insert the plan of care submission date as well now, and indicate when that was submitted. It needs to be within 30 days of the CFTM date. If not, still enter it. It's just going to be late. And if you didn't do it, then that is an issue. Also indicate the natural support and professional support that the kids have. And so that's kind of all the parameters that you're going to insert for each kid every month. Okay, and if you wanted to view a summary of that kid every month, okay, and if you wanted to view a summary of that information for each month, you go to Jump to Charts button, that's right here, and it shows you a summary of what the data that you've collected and what that looks like. So if I want to go back to my data, I'm just going to click Jump Back, and now we're good. So we're going to hit Save, and then we're going to send this information to our supervisors so they can insert it into the master data sheet. So then you should be done. This shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes a month to insert the kids' data. Depending on how many kids you might have, it might take less time or a little bit more, but it shouldn't be too much. If you want to view some of the just parameters of your Excel sheet and some of your kids specifically, you can do that as well. But for now, you're done, and that's all you have to do each month. Let's go into looking at some of the parameters. So if I go to Jump to Different Sheet, let's look at our Consolidate tab. Okay? Here it consolidates all the kids who have left the program with each corresponding month. So I have just inserted December's information. So I want to see if there's any kids who left in December, so I'm going to click December. Actually, I want to add this to the data list, yes. And notice how it added that child 7, the kid who left the program in December. So I have their information here, and this just tells me all the kids who have left successfully or unsuccessfully. Once they're inserted, I'm going to look at this column N at the Successful After 6 Months tab, and I'm going to indicate whether or not after 6 months, if that date has occurred, if they are still successful. So notice how for child 26, it says check back. That's because that date hasn't occurred yet, the 6-month date. And then if the child was originally unsuccessful to begin with, it's going to be NA for being successful after 6 months. If they were successful originally, then indicate if they're still successful. Yes, no. Unknown, meaning we're not able to reach them, is another option. Okay, so that's how you go over the Consolidate tab. Another tab you can look at is Individual Data Sheet. This consolidates all the kids, each individual kid's information. So if you want to look at child 7, it shows their information. If you want to look at child 38, you can see child 38's overall information and a summary of that. So this lets you view each individual kids. So their IC, the number that they had, which months that they, struggled the most, if they had home changes, hospitalizations, school issues, new IRS behaviors, and where the events originally or mainly occurred. So that gives you a summary of each individual kid. Another option is go to the All Months tab, and you can view a summary of your information here. To make sure that whatever facilitator you are, make sure that you clicked your name. So this is Trish, and so I'm going to click Trish, and this shows her all of her information here. So program outcome. This tab shows you the percentage of unsuccessful, successful, and then of those percentage that were successful, it breaks it up into the percentages that were successful after 6 months. Okay, we have successful stats, unsuccessful stats, the percentage breakdown for the successful stats, and then the unsuccessful that are shown here. So it just kind of breaks that down so you can view where most of your kids are going. Also, you can view the home changes you had for each month, hospitalizations, and then the initial conditions, how they're decreasing or increasing, school issues, and then also you can view the initial condition breakdown, so which initial conditions are being most prevalent. Lastly, we're going to look at quarterly data sheet, and then again it's just a similar chart sheet. Make sure that your name is selected correctly, and these charts break it down into facilitator to child ratios, compliant or non-compliant. Compliant meaning that you had 10 or less kids each month. And that has nothing to do with your fault. It's just whether or not you had too many kids that you are having to insert data for. Also, all CFTM dates compliant. That shows the percentage compliance you have for submitting your CFTM dates each month. And then we also have plan of care submission dates. That's a compliant percentage of if you submitted your plan of care 30 days within the CFTM date. We also have entry within 10 days of referral. So if your kid was referred to a program and then they were able to be seen within 10 days of that date, then that is compliant. Not necessarily your fault if you are uncompliant in this area. Another option is first CFTM within 30 days of entry. So whenever they entered the program and they were assigned to you, were they able to be seen within 30 days? So that kind of breaks down the percentages of that, and that sums up everything, I believe. So I'm just going to go to my main sheet and just save it. And this kind of goes over how to insert and navigate through the Excel sheet for the facilitators. I hope this helps, and I hope this helps you keep track of your kids' behaviors and kind of see areas of where we need to improve and kind of look at these problem areas.